Hey everybody, it's Chris with the Loth-Wolf Pack. Welcome back to some Star Wars Destiny content. Luckily for me, I'm joined by the original Brothers Dim. Casey, how you doing tonight?
I'm well, thanks. How about yourself?
Doing great. Yeah, thanks for asking. Levi, how are you, sir?
I'm good, man. You had that whole intro cocked and loaded. Good job.
Oh man, every morning when I get up, I have to rehearse it in the mirror before.
Yeah, you're in the shower. Your wife's like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah, what is he saying in there? Yeah,
just working on the intro.
But yeah, so yeah, I mean, what else would it be? Yeah. Of course. So tonight we are continuing our top 10 series, and we are going to go on to the second set, which is Spirit of Rebellion. So we'll get to that in just a second. Before we talk about Spirit of Rebellion, though, we're going to introduce a short segment. We've just funnily Star Warsy dubbed Trust Your Feelings. So we're going to mention an awesome comment that was left on our previous video. So speaking of which, if you haven't seen our top 10 awakenings, make sure to check that out. It came out a few weeks ago, maybe 2-3 weeks ago at this point. But kind of a comment that maybe mentions a couple cards that maybe we didn't touch on in our top 10. Yeah. So one of our comments was from a frequent watcher of ours and a frequent commenter, Samuel Wilson. So Samuel mentions that he plays a lot with his brother. So obviously, Casey and Levi, you can kind of relate to that a bit.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
And he mentions how it was kind of hard for him to get some cards and stuff like that back in the early days, and he liked to kind of play 4-wide support decks throughout his entire time playing casually with his brother and some at the kitchen table. So, yeah. But yeah, Samuel, thanks for leaving the comment. Always wanted to chime in during our live streams and stuff like that. But he said 3 of his favorite cards that in Awakenings were Logistics, Hired Gun, and Flank. So Hired Gun and Flank were 2 that we didn't have in our list. But yeah, I definitely like these cards too. Flank is obviously a great, as he said, a staple removal card. And Hired Gun, I think, didn't really see a lot of play early on, but eventually he kind of was seeing the light of day as just being a big health character with a couple money sides on him.
Right,
so.
yeah, he's 2 money sides. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it was, we really appreciate all you guys watching. We didn't know if this would be received in any sort of way, and we had a lot of people engaging on it and stuff, and that was a lot of fun. So we're excited to talk about the second round, and thanks, Sam, for leaving the comment, and we'll be looking forward to the one you leave on this one.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so speaking of which, for the next one, Empire at War, we're going to try to highlight a comment that someone leaves on this video. So
yeah. Talk about the cards.
So thanks for
talk about the cards that interest
It's like
you.
almost as good as like a PS5 giveaway, for the chosen copy.
It's pretty close.
Yeah.
It's pretty
You
close.
were named on the internet.
Yeah.
So
the
200 plus people that'll watch this.
Yeah, exactly. All right, guys, so we're going to start with our top 10. Top 10 Spirit of Rebellion. So Levi and Casey, as I was going through the Spirit of Rebellion card list, I mean, this set is completely broken. That's all I can really say.
This set borderline ended the game. For many people, stopped playing in this set. There was some rough times when this and Empire came around. But
I find kind of weird is that for me, I've played a lot of Fantasy Flight's card games over the years, and I feel like they tend to like hold your hand and really guide you through the beginning stages of a game. And the way that they did Destiny was basically the complete opposite of that. I mean, this entire set kind of breaks the game, as you alluded to, Casey. So I thought it was kind of, in hindsight, it seems kind of weird that they did all this crazy aggressive stuff, right out of the go on the second set. But
everybody gets a little cocky on their sophomore album. You know what I mean? Like,
right, but it's rarely as good.
right.
Yeah.
No, that's a good point. They would just it was out of hand. There was no you went full throttle. No longer was it my action versus your action. It was how many actions can I squeeze in that you can't respond to, and cheat hard. I mean, the game just let you cheat, and that was where I think it lost a lot of people.
Agreed. And again, going back to even in Awakenings, I feel it is very interesting that they chose to make ambush a keyword in the first set when ambush basically breaks the rules of the game.
Right.
Or, the essence of the game, essentially.
Right. And then letting it stack, right? Like,
right.
That was where it just got out of hand. I can dig like paying a cost and taking an extra action. That's cool, right?
Yeah, something like a tactical mastery style, something like that.
Yeah, the fair card.
That seems
fair card. Yeah. But
yeah.
then you have Ray doing shenanigans with ambush weapons and everything else that was kicking in at this. It was just out of hand.
Yeah.
So obviously,
designer's point of view, it's hard to keep track of all those stacking ambushes in between lines of blow while you're nervous. You're
right. In between in a hotel room with a
and then you go again.
Yeah,
and then you go.
The 4 a.m. design meetings sometimes don't go exactly.
Oh, you know what we should do? Make a sword that once it's in the field, it causes everything to be unblockable. How about that? We invalidate a whole side of a die. Let's do that. You guys
exactly.
Yeah.
All right. So when we go through this, we'll kind of give our little explanation, maybe the criteria again of our top 10 of how we chose these. But in just a second here, we'll start off with number 10.
Okay.
All right, Levi. So what was your criteria for your list for Spirit?
I don't know. Kind of intuitive, right? Like, I think we all started out with like a top 40 or top 50 out of this. Weaving my way through it, I had to think about, how do I separate my own personal series of traumas that I associate with the card, my own sense of PTSD or my own biases based on what I love to play. How do I separate this in a vacuum? Because Spirit of Rebellion is pretty heavily errataed. So, like, am I looking at cards pre or post errata? And that kind of changes for me throughout. Just, I don't know. I don't have a lot of rules.
Yeah.
But like I think you're looking at a very long list of degenerate cards and trying to figure out, I don't know, what influence for me, what had the most impact. And those are some are feel goods and some are feel bads.
Sure.
So my number 10 is Queen. Well, yeah, I'd say of the set, the Queen Degenerate, because you could call Ray that, but she came out in Awakenings. It is Maz Kanata, Pirate Queen. She is a hero. She's yellow hero, rogue, rare. She has an updated subtype. She's a scoundrel, which is probably pretty sweet if you're playing Infinite. Her hit points are, her cost is 811. And her health
That got errated. I'm sorry. I don't mean to cut you off. That was what got errated. Her hit points got errated. Or her cost. Her cost got errated.
Okay, great. Yeah.
Sorry.
And her health is 8. Thank you, Casey. The die sides are 1 gun, 1 focus, 1 shield, 1 resource, and a blank. And the text reads, after you activate this character, you may resolve up to 2 of your dice. I think this is, she championed Poe, obviously, and that was the number 1 killer. Poe, not a problem if you can get rid of his 2 dice. He's a huge problem if you don't have a say-so. And there's a lot of ways to, just cheat her in. There's not a lot of smart shit to say about Maz Kanata. But it was really fun playing with her. I think she's kind of one of those feel-good characters to play with because she kind of makes you feel smart. But really you're just hoping for that focus side so you can do whatever you want with a adjacent die. That's about all I got. She's cool.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt you there earlier. Yeah, they errated her cost because they had to break her and Poe, and they made it so that Poe could only come in with 1 die instead, right? But yeah, she was super fun. I mean, also she was really strong with, what is it, Legacy's Obi-Wan, where because he had those 3 sides, and but she is a strong, cool support character that just made. They undercosted, I think, her, and then maybe I think that's what it came down to. Is like she made Biggs really strong, and that was a hard thing to go for her, the one she was protecting.
And she kind of makes support decks really strong. I mean, you can run her 3 easily.
Yeah. I remember there was for a little while, there was a 3 watt. I think it was maybe Rose, Maz, and like Hired Gun even could have been the combo. But I could be wrong about that. But it's just her ability is just so broken. It's just so insane. But when it, like you said, it's a feel good and it's also a feel bad because you're just rolling on 33% and hoping you get that focus. But when it goes off, obviously it's pretty nuts. And just the non interactiveness of it is the feel bad part from the opponent's side, but that's what makes it fun for you when you're the one doing it.
Right.
Well, yeah, exactly. It really rides that line between good and evil.
She changes the way you play. That other one comes out. You have to decide if you want to let that die resolve its best side, and so you either remove it before she comes out or hope she doesn't get her specials. Right.
Well, here's the question then. How often when you sat across from Maz was she the target? Was that contextual, or like let's say it's Po Maz, right? Is she the target?
Right.
It's hard to say.
I think that's a great question. It's harder to take down the bigger opponent, but because she only had 9 hit points, was that, or 8? 8. So you could get her, right? But if you played that long game and didn't have damage into the big by the time he'd taken one of yours off, you were in trouble. That's a tough. That was always a tough call, which is always fun to make your opponent choose. She's just too strong, a little too strong for her cost.
The old Pirate Queen herself, Maskanata. Oh man, forget about that. But Levi, I'm glad you put her on the list. I think she's definitely noteworthy enough that we needed to talk about her, somewhere in here. So I'm glad that you put her on. But definitely something good to always remember about Spirit of Rebellion was the Pirate Queen.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Isn't that her title in the movie?
Yeah. I think so. All right, my number 10. So my criteria for the list, last time, if you watched our Awakenings top 10, Levi, you kind of had a nice way of, analyzing how I chose cards. You said you thought a lot of my cards were fundamental, or I think the word you used was architectural to the game. And I think that was your really, really sugarcoat nice way of saying that my list was pretty boring. And that all those cards were obvious staples of the game throughout their life. So, and in hindsight, I can agree with that. So I tried to mix up my list here and add some more fun cards in that aren't just obvious like meta calls for competitive type play.
Cool.
And auto includes for events and stuff like that. So again, I wanted to have a battlefield on my list, and I feel like this battlefield, when it first came out in Spirit, was, for me and the people I played with, was very groundbreaking and eye-opening to really trying to determine the value of claiming in the round and really focusing on the fundamentals of sequencing your turn and battlefield value. And that is Moisture Farm, which is on the planet of Tatooine, of course. And it is pretty simple. It says claim, gain a resource. So, as we all know, if you guys and girls have played Destiny over the course of time, one of the most broken Destiny cards they ever printed was called Theed Royal Palace. And, this is kind of in a similar vein in that era of the game, to where, starting the next round with 3 resources compared to 2 is a really insane boost in power at that time. Because at that time, maybe you could play then your 2 cost upgrade, and then you also have $1 left over for some sort of event card. And that really wasn't common with the battlefields that were available in Awakenings. It was like Frozen Wastes, Starship Graveyard, and that's like really at the top of my head that were like the good ones. So, like I said, I think Moisture Farm, the addition of it, was really just key to at least my group, as far as, like I said, just really once the round kind of played itself out a little bit and you were kind of figuring out your last couple turns, what's the value of me claiming the battlefield for that $1, as opposed to maybe resolving all of my dice or whatever that may be. So.
Or letting your opponent get that $1, right? So
right.
High risk, high reward kind of you're like saying I'm faster than you if you bring in Moisture Farm,
right?
And that's Yeah, great battlefield. It was one of those battlefields I think that made me start to like really consider battlefields as strategy to the game because, like you said, I think that the first ones were more of they were flavor and like they'd kind of do some things like, but wasn't Emperor's Throne Room on that first Awakenings? Wasn't that there?
Yeah, that one
got stronger later, but yeah, great choice, man. Fun card.
Yeah, it's also not like super aggressive. It doesn't really punish the opponent for claiming first. It benefits you, as opposed to battlefields like Carbon Freezing Chamber or Emperor's Throne Room, or Cargo Hold, which were direct punishments to the opponent. So when you lost this roll off, it wasn't like or you lost to your opponent during the roll off and they got Moisture Farm. You're like, okay, because we all know that 3 is the magic number going into a round in terms of resources. But it's a fantastic card. Of course, you took it. You always took it.
Yeah, that's right.
Moisture Farm, I guess.
Give me that $1. Casey, what is your number 10? Or what's with your list?
So I kind of went with my core idea of the game of trying to change opponents' play styles and making them decide how they were going to move forward with something I put down. Those were my favorite moments of the game. So again, I went much more fun here. I rejected a lot of cards that were ultra feel bads for me. But that's not to say that they aren't absolutely vital cards. One thing I'm really excited about this is, you guys probably can guess, we don't look at each other's lists before we submit them to each other. And, I was really pleased to see how different all our lists were this time. And that's, I think, in some ways a testament to the set, but also our interpretation of what those top 10s were. And because it's so subjective. So anyways, I went with actually a card that's still illegal. It's still legal. It got reprinted. It's Decisive Blow. It's a 3-costed blue villain. It's a neutral. It says, resolve one of your dice showing melee damage, then remove all character and upgrade dice of the character you just dealt damage to. And it's one of those cards, again, that like it's such a swing. You roll out your guy, you've got like a 1 stick showing, it's the dream. They roll out their big guy and you take all of their die away. It was just one of those things I just loved doing, and it just kind of put everyone on their back foot. And from that point on, it was like, what else is this guy willing to spend $3 on? that's not nothing. But I loved it. Love this card.
Yeah, really, really sweet card. It's very similar to a card that you had in your Awakenings list, which is Reversal.
Same concept.
So, yeah, very similar concept. Basically the same card, except in this one, you also get to remove all of their dice, which is completely insane. I mean, that's
potentially 5
so ridiculous.
Major die, right? Like potentially, right?
Exactly. Yep.
For $3. Well,
it's definitely worth the 3 when you get that max value, and that's a game winning play right there.
Is this game or is this card ARH legal? Is it?
It is. Yes.
It is.
It's in Spark of Hope.
Maybe President Spark. Yeah.
Gosh, I haven't seen much of it lately, but it's neutral. It's such a good card. But you didn't see it much then either. It wasn't that it was a sleeper card. There's just so many things that was in. It kind of got buried in the folds of cards that just kind of, you had 30 cards. You're like, I would love to pull that off, but I'm just going to take Rise Again and Force Illusion.
Totally. And like it was hard to spend this over a 3-point upgrade, but if the time hit and this was in your hand, I'd hold this for a couple hands.
Yeah, you'd have to.
And also, it was fun to say I decisively blow you when you lay it down. You're like,
that's the only real reason that you play the card.
That was it.
Yeah. Speaking of Levi, to your point earlier about PTSD, at a regional, I had the pleasure of being blown out by this card. Ironically, the player, his name was, I forget, his a really renowned guy, Jonathan Magnuson.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I had the pleasure of playing against him at the Milwaukee
He's
regional.
A brother, too. He had his own YouTube. He's a content creator.
Yeah, they were the Destiny Council, I believe.
Those guys are good.
Yeah, so you guys were at that regional too. That was the Milwaukee regional. I believe those guys are from Minnesota or something, if I remember correctly. But you guys will like this because he was playing single die Kylo and DJ.
Mm-hmm. We were at that regional. I remember this.
Yes, and then I was playing him in like round 6 or 5, and you guys know with DJ, you have all these crazy removal tricks, and yeah, he definitely got me with this a couple times. But so that's my most vivid memory of this card in a competitive setting was.
We had this in our DJ Tal's deck, and she would, it was that same kind of thing.
Don't you have to resolve melee though?
Yeah, we would get like a stick on there on her, but it was in there because it was 3 costed and odd, and
right.
Throw in some melee upgrade in there or something. Yeah. Yeah, very cool. This decisive blow, number 10. All right, let's move on to number 9. All right, Levi, what is your number 9?
My number 9 is way, way higher on somebody else's list, so I'm going to pass that on. Chris, what's your number 9?
Well, coincidentally, my number 9 is also higher on somebody's list. Casey, what do you got?
I have a card that I just love that they never put the same type of action back in the game. I love this card. Every time I had it, I would basically hard mulligan for this round 1, and that was a Quad Jumper. It's a 3-cost yellow neutral. It's a support vehicle, and for an action, you can discard this support to play a support from your hand, decreasing its cost by 3. It had a 2 focus side, a shield, a double shield, and then a $1 blank. And I would work hard for I'd get that third dollar, I'd put this down, I'd roll it out, I'd resolve it. That was like a freebie because that next turn, if not even maybe this same turn, I was going to be able to override it with a much more powerful vehicle, and it was a ramp vehicle. And they don't have anything like it. They've never done a card like it. They've never kind of revisited this space. And I just love this one. It's anytime I had a vehicle deck, this was in there. It was.
I'm glad you put it on your list, Casey. It didn't make my list, but it was definitely on the short list. One of my favorite cards too. And when the set came out and you read this card, you're like, oh my god, can I play an ATST?
Mm-hmm.
Is it possible? Can I get this thing into play? But yeah, it was just a really sweet card. It's just a cool design, just a cool card, and like you said, it's it's kind of like a way to overwrite into a vehicle or a support, and that's pretty sweet. And it's a cool flavor, just get rid of your crappy vehicle, and here comes a better one.
Yeah, absolutely. I never really played this card. I don't think I touched vehicles until, probably after Empire at War. I was all about 2 wides. So I didn't play a lot of this stuff. I guess I played some 3 wides with, you had your Unkar 3 wides. I did that, but I never played Quad Jumper. I don't have much to say about it. I thought it was counterintuitive to the speed the game was asking you to go at the time. Yeah. But its value is undeniable. It's a great card. Great pick.
Thanks. I think you make a great point there with that the game was so fast in Spirit, right? Like you were 3 or 4 rounds, game's over.
Yeah.
And so you're right that this probably wasn't super strong when it came out, but when Empire came out, it was definitely much more prevalent. And but you're right, this was a slower card for sure.
Yeah, definitely a cool one though. Regardless of it being, quote unquote good or not, it's just a sweet card. I love this card too.
Yeah, I wouldn't have Moisture Farm if I was bringing Quad Jumper in.
Yeah, those two don't go together. Yeah. All right, Quad Jumper, number 9. All right, let's move on to number 8. Levi, what is your number 8?
Yes, sir. My number 8 is Rise Again. Villain, Force, Uncommon. Blue villain, obviously. It's an event. It cost 5 bones. 5 cheeses. You heal 5 damage from a unique blue character. You may play an upgrade from your discard pile on it for free. The artist is Audrey Hate. Oh my gosh. This card you were already up against it with Holocron, and then all the force powers surrounding Holocron with Blue Villain.
Mm-hmm.
You're up against it with the blue villains that are out at this point, one of which we certainly will visit in a little while. Rise Again is just it's a great card. I don't know if it's unfair. Is it unfair? I don't know. That's a question for the panel. It certainly didn't feel unfair to pay $5 for 5 hit points. That felt like a good trade.
I think it is unfair with Holocron because Holocron was putting out free upgrades, and so you weren't paying for upgrades, and so instead you'd have $5 for.
Well, I suppose its versatility makes it unfair, right? Holocron. I agree with you, Holocron or not. Its versatility is nuts because I'd say that more often than I would expect, I'm pulling Force Illusion with this and not a Force Power. You're like, it's 5 hit points and probably another 5 hit points, especially with a character that, like a Palpatine that needs it. I don't know. This thing's ridiculous. You can't cheat Rise Again, like Blue Villain had a hard time with money. By the way, is Chance Cube in Spirit of Rebellion?
No.
It would definitely be on my list.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, so it would have made one of our lists.
By the way, did I miss Chance Cube? No, I did.
No.
So at the time, I'm going to say that Rise Again felt very fair because of how much work you had to do to get the money. But that would change in the year and a half it took them to release Empire at War.
Yeah, this card is flavor-wise, it's a hit. Yeah. Regardless of the fairness of it, obviously just, Vader on this, that's a sweet art by whoever you said that was by. But yeah, like you said, I think at that time, it is a weird thing how both of you mentioned fair points where, yes, it costs 5 resources, but in games when you had a Holocron out, you have a high potential of saving money anyway. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of a weird combination of those two factors put together for... just the variance of the fairness of it, I guess, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
I think you guys have said it pretty much. Basically pulling out a 3 or 4 costed upgrade out with it. So basically, you were in essence paying 1 for 5 health is harder to get behind. But with the Holocron, it just made it possible. And but everyone knew what you were doing when you were hoarding money, right? Everyone knew, okay, well, now my game's like keeping money off of his side. So yeah, it was fun. I'd say it's Midland fair, in Spirit's fair. In Spirit, it's fair. After Spirit.
So did this make y'all's initial lists and then you edited it, or what was your
This was in my top 20, I'd say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think I told you guys, my initial scan of the set, I literally had 35 cards written down. So this was definitely in that list of 35 cards, though, for sure. I mean, yeah. So, yeah, awesome pick. Again, I know I kind of say this a lot, but I'm glad that someone picked it because I think it would be a shame for us to not touch on it, at least in one person's list here. So, Rise Again, number 8. For me, number 8, a very fun card. Not a card I use very often, but I do have some fond memories of, using it to high ceiling value when it worked. And a lot of times, though, it was just a discard to reroll. But that card is Never Tell Me the Odds. It is a 3-cost yellow hero event. And it says, choose one of your yellow characters. Turn any number of its character and upgrade dice to sides of your choice. So, what I remember most about this card was in concert with another card called Swiftness, which is a 1-cost gray event that says the next card you play this round has ambush. So
and it has ambush.
And it has ambush, yes. So you play the Swiftness, and then it has ambush, and then the next card you play, which is Never Tell Me the Odds, is switching all of your dice to max value and just blowing somebody out with the ambush from the Never Tell Me the Odds. So flavor wise, I love this card because the odds are it's not going to work, but when it does work and when you can get a situation off where you roll in your yellow character with 2 or 3 upgrades on it and your opponent doesn't respond, and then you have the combo in your hand, and it's definitely a fun thing that they put in the set, those 2 cards together.
Levi?
This one has me scratching my head a little bit. I was always confounded by the design of this card. I agree with you. Like, I love the flavor of it and I love the theme of it, but it's such an obvious cheat card in terms of all the surrounding action cheating that's going on. It is expensive, and this didn't get very abusive until Empire War. But when something had to get done about it, like it was just it was terrible. I have a lot of feel bads with this card where I was like, oh, guess the game's over because it's over now.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
It was
Sabine. I have a hard time with this card.
Yeah, Sabine. Yeah,
calling
right,
in
right,
favors, and all of a sudden it costs 1, and so then you can easily do the swiftness into this for $2, wipe a player off the map. Yeah, I think Levi, you kind of hit it there, where it's adding to that horrible feeling that Spirit of Rebellion brought into the game of no agency, right? And just like, oh well, I got to eat this. And, he got
Them's
the combo.
The breaks. Them's
right.
the breaks.
And I think that this card is kind of a problem. I don't think any card for $3 should, especially when with cards that came along and made it cheaper. Why is Sabine, what was she, 20 points? Wasn't she?
21 points.
I can't remember top of my head.
Murdered everything because of calling in favors, cards like this, hyperspace.
Yeah, we'll save our Sabine talk for Empire.
Oh, yeah, you're right. This one's, it's just bringing back all these feelings. But no, great pick.
Yeah,
great pick. I just feel
that whole archetype in itself was definitely a problem with her. But hypothetically speaking, maybe if she doesn't exist, maybe this card doesn't ever see play potentially. So. But yeah, it's more of a theme card for me. And at the time I was playing more casually and I wasn't really in that competitive scene in just the Spirit Awakenings days. So, again, just kind of some fun memories of just kind of hanging out and, the 1% of the time I would get it. But, never tell me the odds.
That's a cool pick.
Casey, what is your number 8?
So my number 8 is Blackmail. It's a 3-costed villain card. It's an upgrade. After you roll this die, any opponent may give you 1 resource to remove this die. It also has a 2 discard, a 3 discard, which is devastating, a 2 disrupt, a 3 disrupt, and 3 shields. So the sides were all support sides, but they were all really powerful. And again, this played to my idea of changing the way my opponent had to play. And so if I rolled this die, he was going to have to give me $1 or take what it gave him. And if he had jumped the gun and spent his money early on an upgrade, he was kind of going to be boned. If he waited to give me that $1, that let me come in with something else. I just like the presence of this card. It's one of those cards and one of those dies that has a presence.
It definitely does. It's you as the opponent, you almost feel obligated to pay it off because it's just so devastating. Like you said, when all those sides are bad, you don't want any of those going off against you. So definitely a cool card.
Yeah,
it's one of my favorite cards too from the set. I can't really remember top of my head like what decks I tried to play this in. Maybe like a Jabba.
This was
deck.
Unkar all the way.
Unkar,
Jabba. Yeah. The suite this card fit into was like Vibro Knucklers and Prized Possession. It was about choking. It was a great card, great to play, terrible to see, which is the running theme of this top 10. But I love this card because it just felt good to put down on the table because suddenly you're like, have you ever seen sides like these?
You're gonna have to give me your $1 every turn, right?
Exactly.
I guess I think everybody's always looking for the 3 discard side, right? Like that's the side you're looking for, especially when you had this with fast hands. They couldn't give you the $1.
Right.
Oh wow, yeah, good
Yeah.
call.
So this card fit into a whole bushel of dick cards that
Right.
were a
I
bushel
mean,
of.
it was honestly any side this rolled into with fast hands, you were probably taking it and cutting their
Yeah.
money, cutting their hand, or grabbing 3 shields. I mean, 3 shields, yeah, sure, that's awesome. Like,
Yeah.
That's true.
Stupid card. Great stupid card.
Yeah, great pick. Blackmail number 8. All right, let's move on to number 7. Levi, what do you got for number 7?
My number 7 is higher on somebody's list again.
Ah,
So I'm gonna
again.
I will happily pass
Always.
it along to either one of you.
All right. Well, I'm not going to let Casey talk before me. So, my number 7 is a character that kind of touching on something I mentioned before. I just have fun memories of just kind of playing the game with my play group and kind of just getting to know the factions and kind of feeling out the different play styles and different themes of all the factions at the time. And that character is Aura Singh, the Deadly Shot. She is a 10 health yellow villain. She is 14 points and 18 points. Her die sides are 1 gun, 2 gun, 2 gun, 1 disrupt, 1 resource, and a blank. And she has a really cool ability which says before you resolve this die, you may discard a card from your hand to increase its value by 1. So she's kind of like Snoke before Snoke existed, in kind of a weird, way worse kind of a way. But when Balatik first came out, I remember trying to figure out, a deck for Balatik with guns. And, if you had, Veers and Balatik, you're missing out on some points there. It just didn't seem like you got good value there, and you would just play Django anyway. But when Aura Singh came out, we were kind of able, my group and I were kind of able to make a bunch of different monocolored decks of each color and each faction. So, got Aura Singh and Balatik in there, and it was just a fun, fast, aggressive yellow villain deck, and got to play all the guns, Jetpack, Holdout Blaster, Ascension Gun, and just all the awesome, good yellow events that we know from the first couple sets. So, and that ability at the time, I mean, a 2 gun into a 3 gun at the time is nothing to sneeze at. So, and even the resource, you can take 2 resources too. It doesn't say it has to be damage.
Right.
So, just a cool, really cool villain. Unfortunately, in today's game, for her points, her health is probably a little bit too low, but really cool for the time.
Well, that was her problem then too, right? Like she was just squishy for 18 points. But yeah, having a 2-3-3-2-2, like that seems good.
Yeah.
And she was definitely a target when she was on the table.
Yep, no doubt.
I'm gonna go.
I don't know much about her from as far as Star Wars lore. I don't really know what she's from, but you guys know?
She's not the shape-shifting assassin that is tracking Padme and attack.
No, I don't
That's
think
the Claudite or something.
Claudite shapeshifter, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
I have no idea. She's just a bounty hunter with a gun.
I think she's in Hellraiser 3. Hellbound.
That sounds about right.
I'm gonna go against the grain for the first time and say that I don't like this card at all.
Ooh, hot take.
Hot take. No, it's not a hot take at all. I actually appreciate I appreciate how cool her design was. But because her health was so low, which you've already said, even partnering with Balatik, you're like, okay, you're sitting on 18 hit points or something. I don't even know.
Yeah,
and then you're losing a card. If you're able to pull it off, so then you're not mitigating, so you're getting killed even faster. I don't like her long fingers. I don't like her hair. I don't know, Chris.
Well, you haven't seen her from the waist down yet, though, so maybe you should.
It's tentacles. It's octopus half.
Yeah.
Yeah, that hair keeps going.
Yeah.
No, I think I played her once and got just smoked, and I was like, screw her. Yeah, that's all. I'm sorry to just poop on it.
And you've hated her for the rest of your Destiny days.
I have.
Ever since that time.
I have. I can't believe she's 18. I mean,
yeah, it's pretty insane.
She should be 12 hell, at least 12 hell. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty crazy. Well, Aura Singh is my number 7. Casey, do you have a number 7 for us?
I do, and this was actually your number 9. And
yes, it was.
It's Friends in High Places. It's a 0 cost yellow villain. It's an event. Play only if you have dice showing a combined value of 7 or more. And when you do, you look at the top 3 cards of your deck, and you may play one of those cards for free. Discard the cards you don't play. And I was looking at my list again here. I actually have 7 yellow cards in my list. So I think this yellow really resonated with me in this set. And this one, the key thing here is that you just have to be showing 7. Blackmail is a huge part of that. That was 2 or 3 on its own. You'd have, Unkar, Java with their, Unkar had the +2s that look worthless, right? The opponent's like, I don't have to deal with any of that. And then they add up to 7, and then all of a sudden an AT, ST's out, or a tank or whatever you're playing this one. And I loved playing it with heavy supports. And this was fun. It was really fun to play at 0 cost, gamble on the 3 cards. You're losing 2. I mean, losing 3 cards, at worst is still a bad downside to the card, but super fun.
Yeah, I love this card too. Like you said, it was my number 9, and flavor wise, I love the bounty hunters just toasting to the hut there, and they got the friends in the right places. So cards like this though, it really is a shame that Destiny had to end so suddenly, because cards like this, what in an infinite type situation, in when you say in 5 years, if you had so many cards to pick from, inevitably, eventually, there's going to be some wonky combination of something where maybe you can stack your deck,
right,
or have some sort of information like this, and that's when these cards just really get exploited. Is maybe not exactly in that environment of standard at the time. It was more of just a coin flip gamble, but there was a very similar card to this in Hero, which was Our Only Hope. I don't know if you guys know that card. It has Leia on it. But it was a 2-cost event, and it said draw a card, and you may play that card for free or discard it to gain 2 resources. So they had this card and one in a Hero that were kind of those janky, what's on top?
Right.
Oh, okay. So, but yeah, really fun card. And also did see competitive play as well, later on in those similar decks you're mentioning, Casey, just big die, big support decks, Fist, Planetary Bombardment, stuff like that. So
yeah. Vader loved this card. Big terror to behold.
Yeah.
This card.
That was kind of like an innovation of Vader. That wasn't like his first go, but I feel like that kind of came on once people got some reps with him, and they're like, hey, let's just put it in there because he's gonna have 7 out there.
It's gonna happen. Also, is that Aura Singh on the right? Because I take it all back. Look at the butt.
There it is. Yeah, see, she looks great from the back.
Look at the butt.
Yeah.
No, this is a great card. I have nothing additive to say about it other than that. It was just fun to play, kind of like Planned Explosion was fun to play, where, of course, that was way more telegraphed. And I think you had to remove your die with Planned Explosion. You don't have to remove it here.
True.
But, of course, this could be terrible, too, where you're like, I pulled logistics, or I always like the cases where you pulled another Friends in High Places.
And do it again. What's in the next 3?
Yeah,
there's 6
why
cards.
not, right?
And,
it's like you might as well. That's what you're trying to do anyway.
Yeah, could you imagine this
really
now
those
with
next 3 were all super hot, and you had to
this with
cool.
Desperate Measures suck.
Oh, geez.
If you pull an ATST, they're like, nah.
And to get rid of that. Yeah, you cannot have that. Friends in High Places, number 7. Awesome pick. Let's move on to number 6.
My number 6, it kind of blows my mind he's not on either one of your lists, though I'm sure he came very close and you probably bumped him. It's FN2199, Loyal Trooper, Red Villain. He is a trooper. Points are 10-13. Health is 11, which is pretty high. He's got 1 gun, 1 stick, 2 stick for $1, a shield, and a piece of cheese, and a blank. It was errated. I'm thinking of this character pre-errata. I want to say that. Even though he was still strong, he was not errated for so long. So after you play a weapon on this character, roll that weapon die. If able, you may immediately resolve it. He was errated in 2 ways, if I'm correct. Number 1, errata not pertaining to him, that you could only overwrite once. And then his errata... must have been points.
It was
right?
points. He went to 11-14.
He did. Thanks for that. we all know who this guy is. We dealt with this dude, particularly in Night Sister Bala, or I'm sorry, Unkar Night Sister FN. Also Bala. I think Bala might have been the stronger choice in terms of the yellow splash, because of his ability to stand back up every time someone dies. So this was ridiculous. You could just play weapons all day, overwrite, and the only choice that you had to make was when. Never what, never how, certainly never where, not why, right. Just when. And right. Even that was pretty hard to mess up. I mean, I think I was a pretty terrible FN player because I got on the train late. I think I played my first store tournament. I was FN, Bala, Night Sister, and I went up against Calamino, who was playing the same deck. And I'd never met the guy before. And he was beating me. Yeah, and he was beating me so bad at one point. I said a jerk thing. I didn't mean to. I was just like, "You're playing with your food. Just kill me." And he's like, he froze, and he was like, "I'm not. I'm sorry. I'm not doing that." And I was like, "I'm sorry. I didn't mean it." You know, I still think about that because I think, as we all know, like for me, I get a little hot, and I think Spirit of Rebellion made me boil over sometimes, and so, but you can't complain when you're playing the same card, you know.
Right. It's just going better for the other guy.
Yeah, he was just nuts. He's nuts. He's bonkers. That's what I got.
His thing for me, because he was way high on my list. He was actually going to be like 3 or 4, and I kept looking at him and being like, I hate him. He was, I think, a big reason why Spirit of the Rebellion was real rough. He was in he 13 costed. You could roll him out, fully resolve him, and then start the shenanigans. You could do the shenanigans, roll out, resolve, come back in, do more shenanigans if you had the hand. And he had to get off the table right away, and that set the tone. It let the opponent do whatever he wanted. I had so much anxiety playing this guy that it was I couldn't put him on my list because he was so.
How could you not put such an iconic Star Wars character on your list?
Exactly.
This is the funny stuff. You're like, remember that one scene in the movie that just came out where a trooper.
This made him much cooler. This version of him is what made him famous. This is a bullshit card.
It's so crazy that this card, as we all know, it caused them to change a rule of the game.
Core rule, right?
Not just a red of the card, but they had to fundamentally change how the game works in order for this to be borderline okay.
I guess Ray was a part of that too, but you're right.
This was like the icing on top, where this was like, they're like, oh my God, what have we done? This is completely stupid. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, you're right.
And to your point, Levi, really quick about Steve Calamino, he definitely likes playing decks that have crazy lines and a ton of options, but I feel like he was an FN Night Sister.
Yeah.
The price of failure champion.
I didn't know who I was sitting down in front of, and he just destroyed me. Yeah. And I was like, I don't like this game. I don't like playing competitively.
We were at Dice Dojo in the city, and there was like 6 people at tops playing, right? And there was this tournament there. We're like, awesome, there's going to be a store tournament. There's our very first store tournament. And all the guys from Fair Game in Downers Grove that we played there when we moved out here were there. Like, and it was, Waldo had Qui-Gon Jinn and Rey. And
he had Kanan Qui-Gon.
Was it okay, Kanan Qui-Gon, and just wrecked stuff. And like, stuff we'd never considered or played at that level. And they'd been honing their skills and sharpening their knives when they came in. So,
and then here comes some fresh meat. Right. These suckers.
They come to our house. They came to our house and just wiped the floor with all of us.
This. I think we're speaking to a thing that maybe we haven't named. Maybe we sort of have. The big set delay was between Spirit of Rebellion and Empire at War, right? And the errata for limiting overwrites to 1 came after Empire at War, I think, or maybe during Empire at War.
That's a good point. Yeah, I'm not entirely
So
sure when that
so
happened. But
cards like this, in combination with that huge drought,
Right.
I think Destiny lost a lot of players,
yeah,
big time, and I think this card is. I don't know what the analytics. I'd be making them up. I'm going to say this is true though. I think FN is probably like 5% of the reason Destiny is canceled today
I bet
because
it's higher. I bet it's higher. Like, you
I mean
make
it might
a point
be
there. Yeah.
making dice, it might be factory problems, but it's also this initial drought where like the cost of entry was so high, right? You're like, okay, let's make a game surrounded chase cards. So you're paying a crap load of money,
And you're getting one die.
and you're getting one die, and then you're getting just dominated by cards like this that don't seem morally right. There's an ethical problem with what's going on,
Right.
and then there's a huge drought. And Empire at War by no means fixed the situation.
No, it didn't. You're right. And, taking one step back, Awakenings was very thin. It was very hard to find Awakenings boxes. They didn't have enough. And so you had people that had all the goodies, and you had many more people who had threadbare pieces. And then this set came out, and it kind of broke all the rules of making things just action sheet, action sheet, action sheet. And so this card was a horrible part of that, and I think you speak very true to it, Levi. This card pushed people away from the game, and when people aren't spending money on a game like this, they can't continue. I think they probably lost 10% of their players, 15% of their players easy, right, in that time frame between Spirit and Empire, if not more. We saw a lot of people drop off, and our love for Star Wars and the thought of the game held us in, but man, that was a trying time. And then, like you said, Empire didn't change anything, and we'll talk more about that. But they were slow to errata anything, and this card dominated. This card was in the top 3 all the time, everywhere.
yeah.
This was
To your point,
mistake.
Levi, I had him initially on my top 10, and kind of for similar reasons of Casey. I took him off of mine just because, just the negative connotation of it, unfortunately. And I don't mean this to sound pompous, but for me, I don't.
Too late.
I tend
Too
to
late.
not
Sounds pompous
want.
already.
He's getting back
Yeah,
into what we're seeing. That's what's happening.
Yeah, right. I just don't generally like to play the best deck. I don't really like to do that. I did do that a few times for regionals, but that's kind of a different situation, I guess. But like just going to the store and playing, right. I'm not going to bring like FN to the store on a Friday or whatever just for me. So I didn't really play it that much. I played it like more at home and stuff, but I didn't really use it as much as like other people did. I just got beat by it all the time.
I think Levi, putting him on the list, he's super iconic. It would have been really a shame if we went through this top 10 and he wasn't on it.
I agree.
He was so fundamental to the game at that time. It's
no doubt.
The only reason he's not on there in mine is because of spite, and I think that's also really telling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's also very telling that, we've been doing our top 10 here and we've spent 10 minutes on one card.
Is that right?
Which is probably the longest we've ever naturally we've just been going on about it.
Great,
that's the most that we've been, he stirs up the conversation.
Fuck this
Let's
card.
put it that way.
Fuck. Yeah. This is a shit card. Sorry, kids. Sorry.
Yeah. For all the 3-year-olds that are listening, make sure you hit the bleep button. Yeah, so my number 6 is one of the best removal cards that I think that they've printed too, at least one of the more fun ones, and that is a blue hero event called Guard. 0 cost event. Remove one of your blue dice showing melee damage to remove a number of an opponent's dice equal to the value on the die you just removed. So very, very cool card. I think we've all been on both sides of this card throughout your Destiny careers, and I think it's just a good, fair card. Like, you're trading a card and one of your dice for. You're generally going to do this on a 2. You're probably not going to do it on a 1. But if you do it on a 2, you're basically even because it's a card and a die for 2 of theirs.
I think that this should cost
fair.
$1 to make it fair. But it's a really good card. It was on my bubble.
Yeah.
It was right on my bubble.
Yeah.
But I was like, I know Chris will have this. But it's it should cost $1.
Probably. Yeah, but especially when it was on a 3 or something, and that was just the
Does
insanity of it when you get a 3.
Sorry, does it say? I don't have it in front of me. Does it say character die or is it damage?
It's just
Yeah.
die,
So, yeah.
period. Yeah, so
A
that's
plus
really
3
strong.
work.
That's really strong.
So you could do a modified side and take 3 die away.
Yeah, that's insane.
So it should cost.
Yeah,
$1.
that's insane.
That's all I.
Yeah, you're probably right. But it's just funny because villains had so many good events that were like 0 costs. It's like, let's give Blue Hero a little something at least. So, this is basically an auto include in Blue Hero throughout its lifetime. So
it kind of occupies the same space as Do You Feel Anger or Feel Your Anger.
Yeah, good. Okay, good comparison
for villain, which did cost $1.
Mm-hmm.
This punish, I guess their logic was this punishes you because you're losing a potentially really valuable die. My fix would not be for it to cost $1, but for you to, either remove other melee sides or choose a type of die, a side, and remove that many.
Yeah, you couldn't just snipe like your resource, your damage, your stick. Yeah, you can't just snipe 3 dice off.
Sure. If they relegated that or they focus, they narrowed in on what it could touch, that might be a little more fair. It's wild to me that you use the word fair in describing this card.
I guess I was
Blue Hero needed
Blue Hero
needed
after saying that. I guess I was maybe what I should have said is maybe they thought it was fair because it was a card and a die. Mm-hmm. If it was a 2, it's a 2 for 2, so to speak, in a way.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, it was a cool Blue Hero trick too. Blue Hero had a lot of cool little tricks, so that was definitely one of them. That forced misdirection and stuff like that. Where,
true.
And caution was another one.
Caution.
You're removing a die to do things. So.
Yep. Yeah. So yeah, kind of a cool theme there. Yeah. But yeah, I guess I definitely misspoke saying this was fair because we've all seen that it's definitely not in that category of cards. So
yeah.
My number 6.
Great. It was a great one, man. Like I said, it was right on my bubble. Great hero. Yeah. Hero needed it. It's just not fair.
Indeed. Casey, what is your number 6?
My number 6 is higher on someone else's list, so we'll talk about it later.
Nope. All right. Moving on, number 5.
My number 5 is actually my top 3 Destiny cards of all time, but I couldn't put it in the top 3 of Spirit of Rebellion because I couldn't convince myself that he had as much impact on the game at that time. But for me, in terms of like what I like to play, he was my number 1. Unkar Plutt, yellow villain, rogue, rare character. He's a scavenger. Points are 10-13. Which may have been errated. I think it was. I don't have the erratas in front of me.
You went to 11-14.
Thank you. 10 health, which is very high for what he can do. For an action, not a power action, for an action. Remove any number of your dice showing a combined value of 3 or more. And then discard a random card from an opponent's hand and gain resources equal to its cost. I feel like he sits in such a curious design space for me because there's not really been anything else like him where you're trading your die on a gamble for money, you're touching your opponent's hand. There's a lot of really weird, cool stuff with him. He's an outlier in design. You said fair earlier about Guard, and I wonder, I might say fair about Unkar Plutt because removing dice showing a value of 3 or more came at a cost, and you couldn't rate that cost because you couldn't measure that cost because you didn't know what card you were going to pluck unless you had friends in low and you kind of could,
and stuff like that. You had to learn.
Yeah, you have to have a peek into the opponent's hand. But he was his point cost is great because he's going to sit with either a really solid partner like Jabba. We remember the Jabba Unkar, or he's sitting in a sweet 3-wide, and then the opponent's like, I guess I have to deal with him.
Right.
But you don't want to.
Didn't they break him because of Thrawn? Isn't that why they eroded him?
Yeah.
It was Thrawn, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Thronkar. Yeah, but
Yeah.
but Jabba Unkar, I think, with buyout. Again, this is an Empire at War discussion, but
Mhm.
um, Unkar with Jabba was maybe the most efficient mill deck to ever exist in the game.
Right. Yeah, I think that's fair. And with blackmail that I mentioned earlier, I have some other yellow ones we'll talk about that I think fit with him. That really rounded him out. He was. I remember this was the first time where I was like, I'm going to throw away my highest costed card on a non-reroll. I'm discarding to reroll and then not rerolling because I couldn't let you pluck it from my hand. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like, again, really, really cool space to be in where you're like, oh, I'm just making him throw a card away so that I don't have it. Like, and that tells me a lot about what's in his hand. And if I'm going to pursue this power of his, and I mean, just that action alone is so powerful.
I didn't read his sides. One focus, one disrupt, two disrupt, one money plus two money and a blank. Sorry, not to interrupt. I got so excited by his ability because never.
That's what it's about.
His dice were. I mean, I guess you'd take the $3 if you rolled it. I guess because 3 was better than
the shot of 3, right?
A shot at 3, but I mean.
But if you had those 2+2s and no other way, you weren't going to discard to reroll. You wanted the $3. You were gonna do it, and
and it wasn't just his dice. I mean, that was even the best part. It's any die, any die you have in your pool. So he's a lot of fun. I wish they would have brought him back. I guess his version 2.0 is Watto.
Yeah, good call.
Yeah. But Watto's not taking that gamble of.
But he gambles on his own die, and he's a yellow money maker and stuff like that. That's all I mean.
Well, yeah, the yellow generator, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. Unkar was, you play him, he was kind of your card in our world, and it was always rough to sit across because he was going to just mess me up and change the way.
I loved Unkar with 2 TIE pilots.
Ooh,
that was just ridiculous. I did play that. That was fun. Chris?
Yeah, I mean, what was I going to say? Sorry, I kind of got lost there for a second. So Unkar, I feel like, for some reason, I think you're fixed what you said about maybe removing only his dice. I think that would be okay. But, as you touched on, the fact that it can be any of your dice makes it a little bit too easy to exploit it in kind of an overpowered kind of way. But yeah, definitely a great character, and I'm glad that you put him on your list because we said this a lot, but definitely something we needed to touch on in the Spirit of Rebellion world was Unkar. So the junk dealer himself, 1/4 portion. Right. It's always given out.
Simon Pegg.
My number 5 is an upgrade that I feel like when I first saw it, in comparison to some of the other upgrades from Awakenings, was kind of like almost mind-blowing in a sense, that the sides that were on it. And that is Maz's Goggles. It is a 1-cost yellow hero upgrade equipment. It says to play, spot a yellow character, and its die sides are 1 focus, 2 focus, $, special, blank. And the special is look at an opponent's hand and discard an event from it. In Awakenings, there just wasn't something with this kind of power on it for 1 cost. I mean, you get a 2 focus side and $2 sides for a $1 upgrade in yellow was, you're kind of salivating thinking about playing this on round 1 and then just getting your game plan going there. You'll take any of those sides, preferably the top 4, but the special obviously has its place and can be useful just to get the full information. Look at your opponent's entire hand and take their best removal card. So I thought it was a great card, and I tried to play this a lot back in the day. And I thought it was great. And later on, when you don't need it anymore, you just overwrite it for something else. So Maz's Goggles is my number 5.
Levi?
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is... part of me is like, oh, they showed some restraint not having 2 special sides on this card, but that would have been just bananas. And it's one of those like rare cards that go best on the character it's designed for, which makes sense. Because rolling that 2 focus side or whatever on it is sweet. This is just a great card. It's like a perfect legendary card, right? Like this is like Yeah, this is a good legendary. Like, you're happy to crack this pack, you know?
I think
Great pick.
this card pays for itself no matter what side it rolls the first time. Like, it is already done its job, and everything else is just cake. I think its special is arguably its best side, in my opinion. But I think that it's the 2 special, and the 2 focus, then the special is the way I'd order it. But I love this card. This was solid. Any hero with a yellow. The thing is like, there wasn't a lot of yellow hero being played. I mean, I guess there was the occasional, but
yeah, not really.
This was
just Poe Maz and
well, yeah.
I mean, she was being played, right?
Yeah, good art on this card too.
Yeah, it's great. Zoom in on those eyes. What you seeing in there? Casey, what is your number 5?
My number 5 is actually kind of what that card special does. It's Friends in Low Places. It's a 0-cost event, neutral, spotty yellow character to look at an opponent's hand and discard an event from it that costs 1 or less. And this was a card I was so happy to play the first turn of any round. It really let me remove. I would generally take away a removal, and I would know how that turn was going to go. I know what the opponent's plan was. I knew what I was going to be able to do to work around it. Great card. 0 cost, full knowledge card. Love it.
Yeah, this is... I kind of forgot this card was neutral, to be honest. It just feels more like a villain card, But yeah, this card is insane. I just don't know what to say. I don't know why it costs 0. I feel like it should probably cost 1. Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. If it cost 1, would it ever be played? Would you ever play it?
Yes.
You'd still play it?
It's probe on crack. It's probe on crack. It is. Yes, you play it for 1.
Yeah, it's probe on crack. That's true. It's a better probe.
Yeah, I just we've all seen it. The rounds when they have Friends in Low Places, you're just like, well, my best removal card is gone, and that's all there is to it. But yeah, I feel like if it cost 1, you would still play it, but it would just be more reasonable. Like, I don't know why it costs 0. Like, probe costs 0. Maybe that should also cost 1. Maybe that's what they were thinking. But I don't know. It's a really, really strong effect. Because probe, you don't get to look at their entire hand.
Right.
You get to look at 2 cards.
What you're gonna hit. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
That's why Maz's goggles special so powerful. Like, it was.
Yeah. Look at their
I was
whole
like,
hand.
yes, please. Oh my gosh, I got the special.
Yeah.
Unless it was late in the round, right? But but having this turn 1.
That's insane.
So Maz's goggles says remove the cheapest card or event.
Event.
No, it just says discard any event. Look at their hand.
It's actually slightly stronger.
Right. Well, this card feels like the only way. Okay. All right. The only way to make this close to fair at 0 costed is if it said discard an event, the cheapest event in someone's hand. Well, even that's not cool. Like, 1 or less, that means you get to choose. You have a choice there. But then if you say cheapest event, like, what if their cheapest event is a 2-coster? I don't know.
Sure. I was thinking, like, similar to what you were thinking, like, maybe if you picked 2 events or up to 2 events, or you have to pick 2 cards from their hand and then the opponent chooses one to discard.
That's great. Yeah, kind of overconfidence, but yeah.
Yeah, but in their hand.
Yeah, that's cool, Chris.
Yeah. But what if there wasn't 2 events and then, I get that.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right.
I guess.
Yeah, that's a can of worms kind of situation there with the design. So, but yeah, this was obviously a card that saw a ton of play throughout its lifetime, to say the least. So
we were just a bunch of abused spouses with this card. We just ate it. We were like, all right, here's my hand. Okay.
It's that same love-hate, right? You're like, I fucking hate this card, but oh man, I love playing this card. That was, I think, what was wrong with Destiny.
Yeah. Auto include.
Right.
Yeah, I feel like too that's also a problem with how they constructed the game a little bit. Not to kind of go off on a little tangent, but like when you were trying to build a deck, like if you played yellow, why would you not put this card in your deck?
Like Levi said, it's auto.
There were too many cards that were just way above the curve that were just always in no matter what.
Yeah.
Kind of
any
limited the deck
had
space a little
There were
bit.
8 cards that were going to be in every archetype's deck, right?
Yeah, the beginning decks didn't really have a distinctive feel. it was all kind of like a vanilla, just we're all playing these great cards, but the characters give a little bit of a differentiation, but the decks themselves were basically comprised of a lot of the same stuff. Because some of the better cards were neutral. This is a good example of it. Probe, Friends in Low Places, another card we'll touch on in just a little bit. But yeah, I'm glad you brought this one, Friends in Low Places. You have both the Friends on your list, Casey, high and low.
I think they're both, again, one of my 7 yellows.
Yeah, true.
I want to shout out to Watto and Aura Singh's kid on the art of this card.
Nailed it. Totally.
Oh my gosh, it is a combo.
Thing.
Oh, what is happening?
Look at her outfit.
Yeah.
Wow.
She's a little bit of the female gremlin too in Gremlins 2.
Look at her feet.
Hey, she's pouring the cocktail.
She's standing. Get off my table.
She's got
on the table pouring the
duck
drinks.
feet.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that guy's throwing up. He hates it so much he's throwing up.
He can't stand it.
All right, let's move on to number 4.
Number 4 is Palpatine. Oh gosh, big blue boss Palpatine. He's a Sith. He's a leader. That must have been changed. His points are 21, 28. His health is 15, which at the time was unheard of. His sides are underwhelming right now compared to other things. When you're looking at it, it's his power. 2 guns, 3 guns, 2 discard, which is sweet. 2 shields, $1 and a blank. The flavor reads: after you resolve this die, force an opponent to deal 2 damage to their characters, distributed as they wish. It was sort of one of the introductions to indirect damage, aside from planetary explosion. Planetary
planetary uprising.
Uprising, thank you.
Yeah, uprising.
Yeah. This is nuts. He was really exciting. He was really scary to sit across from. He was scary to play too because you felt so vulnerable with only 15 health. His dice were nuts, but if you couldn't resolve them, So yeah, he was an awesome character. The builds finally came down to a very stripped version where your only real focus was keeping him alive and resolving his dice, which is definitely the way through with him. But at the time, he was just exciting. He's like probably the most exciting on paper legendary of the set because he represented a future of the game that never quite came to fruition in terms of like boss mode. And single characters. If you were playing a single character, you were a jerk at the time because you were doing it with Sabine, later on. He's just great. I mean, the fact that you're melting them when you resolve dice means you're happy to see the 2 discard side. Him with Holocron was great, but obviously there was a lot of viable builds with him. Rise Again. Oof.
Right. He was why Rise Again came along.
I could see him having a 2 resource side. Would that be too much? Yeah, it'd be too much, I guess.
That's his weakest side, right? Outside the blank. His weakest side is that $1, but you're still doing 2 damage for that $1.
Yeah, but you wanted that $1, you really wanted it.
Right. But Holocron was what made him work. And also cheating guns. All the cheating guns that were out and about. Like you'd put guns on Palpatine so you could then ramp up into powers and lightning and all the other stuff that was around.
Blaster, stuff like
that. He was awesome. Very cool. He was that first clock character, I think. Like that first time you were like, I'm on a clock. And also prioritizing his die. You had to get rid of him however you could, whatever you could do. Great character. Great space.
I don't remember. Was Endurance a Empire card or Resilience? The one where there was the event that was one cost where you roll a die back out that just got removed, and then there was
Endurance. That was Empire Warrior.
And then you had your 2-costed upgrade. I think it was called Resiliency or something.
Yeah, Resilient. Yep, I think that's Empire Warrior.
Okay, yeah. So those things were huge for him.
Yeah. Obviously one of the more recognizable characters of the set. And, I remember one of the more relevant content creators from Monk's Gaming Battlefield. If you guys watch Monk, Chris Monk. Yeah, he was always playing Palp on his stream. I remember back a few years ago, so he was always championing Palp. I think he may have won a regional with it.
Yeah, and I think I also
or something like that.
He kind of, I think he coined Naked Palpatine.
Yeah, he did.
It's
yeah,
his thing.
Yeah, that was his build. Yeah,
shout out
I think
to
that
Monk.
was kind of the. Yeah, like you said, that was kind of the end version of his deck, but because of Monk, he was the one to kind of streamline that deck with all his reps and practice and get it to a really sweet spot of, from where it started to where it ended up. There's two completely different things as far as the strategy of the deck.
Yeah, he stuck around. He was Palpatine stuck around for a while. He wasn't
It was
just
the swiftness altered fate combo that made it
Mm-hmm.
But
crazy.
also, we can't, I don't think, talk about Palp without talking about Force Lightning and how broken that card was. Because at the time it wasn't eroded. You could hit that special, re-roll it, hit the special. It got stronger and stronger. You could ramp it uncontrollably right away. And so Palp was all about the holocron into Lightning, and then you were up against it.
That's cool.
Gosh, Palpatine was cool.
Yeah. I also just noticed on the DB it says in Infinite he's been balanced to 1926.
Yeah, they brought him down.
So that's pretty sweet. You could play him single die with a partner.
Yeah, or have a
at 11. That's pretty cool.
Right? You could have.
Yeah, or have a super
I
sweet.
guess you're doing lightsaber mastery with him. Is that the idea?
Yeah.
Right, I guess.
You could do profitable or something.
Couldn't you do lightsaber mastery is a 2, right? You could do that on a normally. So what you could bring in
true.
like a Ewok or something, a 4-costed.
Oh yeah.
No, the Jawa, the gray
Jawas
Jawa.
or.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Infinite does not interest me because of this set.
Yeah, good call. But yeah, the Galactic Emperor. Everything is proceeding as he has foreseen. Yeah. Even the end of the game.
Right.
So
great boss character card, like you said.
For sure. All right, my number 4 is a removal card that I think over the course of time of people playing it realized the insane versatility it had, and is also a neutral card, and that is Overconfidence. 1 cost, blue, neutral event. Spot a blue character to reroll 2 dice, then remove one of those dice with the lowest value. You choose in the case of a tie. And this card is insane. Yeah. It's insane. Being able to choose any 2 dice and just reroll those 2 dice, that would be like a fine card by itself. Like, I'll reroll this one and that one, and that's fine. But then getting to remove one that's the lowest value, and when you play those dice to where you have odds on your die being larger than theirs, like say in Darth Vader Terror to Behold situation, you can do one of theirs and one of yours. You can do 2 of theirs. Like, it's just, you can do 2 of yours if you really want to, if you really are looking for something. I don't know if you ever would, but you could. But I think the blinders were on when this card first came out, and it's like you only touch your opponent's dice with it in the beginning. And then as I kind of mentioned with experience, you're like, oh, wait a second, I can do all these different tricks with it. And it's just one of my favorite cards, I think, of all time, Overconfidence.
Yeah, go ahead, Levi. What do you got?
Oh, nothing, man. I'm gonna. This card's awesome. I have nothing additive except for how much I like the art by apparently Jaru Wimberly. Great art.
There it is.
Yep.
Also on my bubble, I had a lot of blue removal on my bubble because they needed it so bad. The risk reward on this right up my alley when it comes to a dice game. I mean, this is like a dice game card. Like, hey, fucking roll some dice and take a chance. And doing it with like one of yours and one of theirs, hoping yours come out higher. Great card. Good pick.
Yeah, really cool card. And I think it's just cool that I really appreciate how they put the like little parentheses helper text on there, which I think they could have done a little bit more of, to be honest, in my opinion. But just to clear up any of that kind of weird little nuances with the card. So it says, read that. I get to pick, buddy. So that one's going away. But yeah, Overconfidence. Shout out to Gerard Wimberly, as you said, Gerard, the artist. Casey, what is your number 4?
But number 4 is another yellow card. It's Fast Hands. It's a 0-costed upgrade ability, yellow neutral. After you activate attached character, you may resolve one of its character or upgrade die. It did get errated to where it was yellow character only, but I don't think that came around for some time. And so I thought this card was so good that you would put, if you weren't already putting yellow in because of all the other wonderful yellow cards, this was a high enough reason to have yellow in your, you put this on your big blue or your big red, and he's fast handed and stuff. You conceivably could play one single die palp with a yellow, and I'd seen that out there just to get this on palp at the time. But also kind of the epitome of the set. I think this is like right up there with what the set was doing wrong, which is no agency, which I think we keep coming back to. Roll, resolve. Like
it's definitely a theme. Yeah. Yeah, great pick. Like you said, I agree with your thought that the errata took a while to come. Again, we could be wrong about that, but that's my initial hunch too. It really took a while for that to happen, until maybe after the next set or even possibly Legacy's time. But yeah, what a card. I mean, 0 cost, and then that ability is just nuts, as we just mentioned. Obviously anything where your opponent has no chance to interact, forget about it. And neutral as well.
Why does this card cost 0?
Yeah, I don't know.
There are a lot of 0 costed cards in this set.
Yeah. I mean,
being 0 costed.
Oh no, this has no business being. This was a pre-errata, post-errata. It was still amazing, but pre-errata, it was a staple in my favorite deck. That I was playing at the time was Han Snap. So you're just auto resolving snaps to disrupt side, and then they can't claim, and then you do whatever you want.
Because Snap planetary uprising them, and
you have carbon freezing chamber, so you're taking their character die, you're hitting them for 4 indirect, and they never have money. It was so fun, so terrible.
Yeah, that was a great deck.
Yeah, it was.
And to that point, I guess Snap was in Spirit. Yeah. So if you guys aren't familiar with Snap, it's Temin Wexley.
Mm-hmm.
And his ability on his card says, while at least one of this die is in your pool, your opponent must spend 1 resource in order to claim the battlefield.
Yeah. Again,
this was the smartest I ever felt playing Destiny, because there was no database at the time. So I felt like I figured out Han Snap on my own. That's my memory of it. Casey might be able to back that up. That's just how I felt about it. Of course, you're living on 18 health when you're doing it, but man, Snap.
Yeah. Sure.
We weren't, Chris, you mentioned this earlier. We weren't interested in playing the best decks. We were super interested in building out quirky little things that would hit you sideways. And Levi and I played each other a lot. And this was probably, his Han Snap was probably my least favorite deck to play against because of Planetary Uprising. Because doing, in essence, 4 indirect every turn was just god awful because of fast hands.
Yeah.
If Snap hit that in disrupt,
you're done.
You're like, okay.
What's making me think of another top 10 we could do is top 10 decks that we played throughout the game.
Yeah, I dig that.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too. Yeah, pretty cool though. Fast hand. It's just. It's so good. It's so good. But yeah, that's number 4. Want to move on to number 3?
Sounds good.
My number 3 is higher, just barely on somebody else's list. I will pass it on. What's y'all's number 3?
All right, my number 3, Levi, was your number 7.
Mm-hmm.
And another card that was kind of instrumental in a lot of the field bads coinciding with FN 2199. But even by itself, even outside of that shell, this is just an insane card, and it is the Z6 Riot Control Baton. 3 cost upgrade weapon villain. It is a legendary, and the die sides are 2 melee, 3 melee for $1 resource, and 2 blanks. It has redeploy for some reason, and then it says, after you roll this die into your pool, you may re-roll it.
Cool.
And that is insane. That is an insane ability.
Because especially playing off FN.
Right. But as I kind of mentioned, even after the whole FN nerf thing and maybe that whole thing went away, I mean, this card is still a beast just as itself without any other sort of context around it. In a vacuum, this thing is insane. Redeploy, and then you get 2 rolls on it. Like, I don't know. It's really, really good. But, without going back to that discussion about FN, I think that's kind of all I really have to say about it. It's just a super, super strong weapon, and one of the best ones I think they've ever printed, even to this day.
Yeah, hard agree with that. It's such a good weapon. I think maybe part of their thinking was that a red melee weapon even then was unheard of. Like right now we have the other baton. We have Phasma's her Quicksilver.
Oh yeah, Quicksilver.
Right, and that's a red melee weapon. I'd be hard. I can't think of any other ones. So I maybe part of their thinking was like, hey, redeploy is gonna move over. Gosh, but it's not. It doesn't even say red character only on it.
Right. Yeah.
This is.
It's interesting. Like you were saying, I just what we've all grown to know that redeploy is one of the most powerful keywords that there is. So, and then it's just interesting, like you said, that they chose to put redeploy. Or when you think about the stuff they did choose to give redeploy to, like, did this one really need it? I mean, that ability. What other, top of my head, there aren't many characters that have an ability where you can just re-roll something again coming in just because you want to.
It's made.
No way
they got so excited by FN. They're like, and let's get his weapon in there. Let's go nuts on the FN space.
Like you said, the best character in the whole Star Wars trilogy.
And
yeah,
this was one of the few red sticks out there, and it was powerful. But not being unique, like. You would upgrade into this. This was your final form of any weapon. And, it's fucking stupid. I keep saying that word a lot. I'm sorry, but
it's true. Well, as we've seen, this set invokes a lot of emotions. So, it's easy for us to talk at length about all of these cards that we've been mentioning throughout the
what are we on? Almost 2 hours now?
It's probably 5 or something, 5 or 6 hours.
So if you guys are still around,
it's close.
You guys feel our pain on this. This was inevitable.
Yeah, hope you understand maybe why that's we're kind of long-winded on a lot of these cards, but Z6 Riot Control Baton. We are on number 3. So Casey, what do you got here?
Another yellow. It's a 0-cost villain card. It's a support. Is anyone guessing it yet? It's Salvage Stand. It's after one of your dice rolls a resource, you may exhaust this support to force an opponent to lose a resource. And again, like, this is one of those cards that once it hits the table, it just changes everything. And if you get a second one, because why make this non-unique, you could, in essence, roll out your Unkars or your Jabas or whomever, take $2, off the table from your opponent. So you're forcing your opponent to spend their money really fast, which then removes removal from their hand and everything else, just because this card's there. And again, I don't know why it costs $0. It's another one of those. There's no reason that it costs $0.
I mean, I totally agree. I mean, I don't know why. It should probably cost $1. I don't know. But can you guys remind me, what do you guys think what was like the marquee deck
with like this
that this card saw playing?
Like
Unkar, if any Unkar deck, a 3-wide villain deck is going to have this. You're just going to roll that $1. Thronkar, I think, had this.
Thronkar,
because that was such a choke.
The only negative part of this card for the person who plays it is that maybe you forget to do it. And it's the first card in this game. This card made me grow up because I was like, I'm going to stand up for myself. You forgot to do it, and we're not walking it back. We're not walking it back,
Right.
dude. No, this was the card that made me like, you know what? Rules are the rules, my friend. Get out of here.
Right.
That's how busted it is, You got to keep them honest.
Yeah,
So.
it just changes the board. It changes when this card shows
Totally
up
fair.
for $0.
Totally
just
fair.
got played.
It's funny. It's funny that I think you have some inconsistent criteria for making your list, Casey.
I do. I know. You're absolutely right. There's cards that I rejected that you guys are going to talk about here next.
But this is one of them. This one's nuts.
Yeah, but it wasn't like, okay, so the thing is like this, you're right, but it didn't you could still spend that money. You could say, I'm going to spend my $2 on this upgrade and negate that card, but it just changed how you played. Well, the ones you're about to talk about don't allow that choice, right? So you're right that I do have like a variance on what I find acceptable and not, and this is an MPE experience card. I agree with that, but it involved luck, and you generally had a choice to get ahead of it.
I took a moral stance, and I didn't put this one or Imperial Inspection on my list because they were essentially equally crippling, and they only errated Imperial Inspection for some reason,
right.
where like you could use it once, you could tap it, it's gone. But Salvage Stand, they're like, nah, it's fine.
Keep it going.
What's funny is you picked Umkar, who is anchors a lot of the cards that I chose on this one. So I don't know how high moral ground you got over there.
I don't. I don't. But this is the only case where I was like, I'm not going to even talk about it.
Yeah.
It's he who shall not be named.
Right. No, they're coming. Those ones are coming.
Speaking of which, let's move on to number 2.
My number 2 is. Wait, are we on number 2?
Yeah.
Yeah, Dose.
Cool. My number 2 is that's right. My number 2 is not as high on somebody else's list, so I'll pass it on to you.
All right. My number 2 was actually Levi's number 3, and we were talking about this just a second ago. Nothing really clever to say about it, but I'm just going to read the card off real quick. This is Force Speed. For some reason, it costs 0 resources, and it is an upgrade ability neutral. It's blue, and it has die sides of a focus, a shield, and 3 specials, and a blank. And it says blue character only. Special, if you can hit 3, one of the 3 is take up to 2 additional actions. Levi, what do you got? Since it was your number 3, what do you think about Force Speed?
Oh man, it's sad how fair it is, like that it's totally reasonable.
Yeah, why is it still a card?
Yeah. What's the problem? I love that there are 3 special sides on this. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I guess, yeah. I think nobody's gonna say anything that anybody playing Destiny hasn't lived through. So I will say that Tiziano Baracai's artwork is fantastic. Why is it 0 costed? Why is it neutral? It's an auto include in any blue deck forever until it went away. It's amazing.
They never eroded
it. I don't know. I remember this card being like $60 at the time when it first came out, because obviously, like you said, neutral, everyone wants it. But we mentioned this kind of in the beginning. It really is interesting that like this card is just so obviously broken. I just don't know what.
Oh, right.
Like what the deal was with
that was when they were in Vegas.
Right, 4 a.m. night, 5 a.m. night, 6 a.m. night, yeah. I hear you. But
just being like, how can we wreck this game? You know what?
Yeah.
Blue neutral, 0 costed, 3 special cards.
2. Yeah, it's not just like you get an ambush; you get 2. Like you get 2 more actions.
Oh, and it's non-unique again because.
Oh right, yeah. Because why not?
Oh yeah, the days when you had two out. Yeah, how do you ruin this game? I'll hold my beer.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. You hard mulligan for this, you know.
I mean, maybe let's say if it was 3 specials and 3 blanks,
Eh,
like maybe that's a little more reasonable. But I mean, still 50%. Like,
right.
I don't know.
It might as well be 3 specials and 3 blanks. Honestly, it might as well. It
Yeah,
doesn't
'cause-
matter.
Right. Right.
You're right. I mean, God, those are just bonus sides.
Okay. All right. So 2 specials, two specials, 2 blanks, and a focus side,
And it costs $1.
and it costs $1.
And it costs
And
a
it-
dollar. And it costs a dollar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. This is nuts. I've never understood this. I have so many questions that I don't care about.
Yeah.
It put 3 charges on this. I don't know.
Oh.
Like,
yeah. Yeah.
It just shouldn't. It changed everything. This card, so stupid. This was one of those ones I morally couldn't put on.
Didn't make the moral list.
Yeah, well,
Casey,
but
so.
Savage Sand, no problem. But
So speaking of the moral list, Casey, what's your number 2 here?
so okay, great segue. I think what were we talking about? So mine is we alluded to it earlier. It's a 2-cost neutral gray card. So it was in literally every single deck that had melee damage. It's a vibro knife upgrade weapon. It's got ambush on it. While this die is in your pool, melee damage dealt by your die, including this die, is unblockable. And that's how it came when it came out. And what that meant was that you'd roll out, and this die never got resolved until the very end because every other die that had melee sides was unblockable. This card removed shields from the game because it's a yellow neutral. Or I'm sorry, it's a gray neutral card. It was literally in every deck. All of a sudden, your shield sides were blank sides. It was so game breaking that I couldn't not put it on there. But like while like your speeds were blue, this was gray. There was literally, unless you were a full on gun deck, this was in your list. It's so stupid. It's so stupid.
Yeah, it really doesn't make much sense to me. You know, I know that sounds really kind of negative, but it's just the errata. So the errata says damage dealt by this die or dice it modifies is unblockable. Right. Not all of your melee dice are unblockable. Period.
Why wasn't that? That's a fair card all of a sudden. You know.
Right. So I think what I'm going to do here is, I think this card was printed as a possible answer for my number 1.
Okay.
Which is Force Illusion. So, which was also Levi, that was your number 2, right? And morally, Casey could not put it on his list. So, Force Illusion is a 1-cost blue upgrade, also neutral. Before attached character takes damage, you may discard cards from the top of your deck equal to that damage to block it. Then discard this upgrade from play. So maybe they thought like we need an answer to Force Illusion, but like I'm just trying to maybe justify the design of Vibro Knife. But I really can't put a finger on it.
I think Force Illusion has some fairness with it. There's some fairness with it. But this card was they obviously came out in concert with each other. Why does this card have ambush on it? Why does this card have why who thought that coming out that it should say what it says where?
Yeah, I don't know. And I guess now that we're talking about it, Force Illusion as my number 1, as Force Illusion being neutral, Vibro Knife being neutral, Force Speed being neutral. As I think we kind of touched on this before, it just felt like a lot of the decks were just the same cards.
Built around these like 3 or 4 major cards in the set, right?
Yeah, it's like they designed all these insane cards, but yet they're neutral.
Right.
And so it just kind of made this vanilla world of like, these are the good cards.
Right.
And you're going to play them. Like it, like red, or, this is kind of a generality and maybe not necessarily exactly accurate, but it's like the factions didn't really have a distinct flavor to them because all these just general cards were just good when you would just play them. There was no theme or anything to, sometimes, not all the time, but there wasn't like a distinctive theme between the different colors and factions. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But
so Levi, Force
Right.
Illusion was your number 2. What do you got? I mean, we might as well just roll right into our number
Yeah.
ones here on this one.
I agree. Yeah.
So
Yeah,
Levi, you
I just
had
wanna-
Force Illusion.
I just want to touch on Fiber Knife really quick. I don't like the artwork. I never did.
Yeah.
I don't like that knife. I don't like that hand. I don't like it. Uh,
Yeah, the
Force
forearm's
Illusion?
all wrong too. The bone right there, the ridge on the bone is all wrong.
They messed it all up.
Creature. Force Illusion. I don't know, Chris. Chris probably has more. You must have more to say about Force Illusion, Chris.
It's another feel bad. Like I know they had second chance in Awakenings. We didn't talk about that in Awakenings, but I mean this card costing $1 and it's just gonna block the biggest die or possibly even a combo of a modifier on a black side. I mean the ceiling on this is so high. You can block 5-6 damage with this one card at the low cost of just discarding cards from your deck. So I hate to be a broken record, but I just really would have liked them to have printed more faction unique damage blockers or fixers such as like field medic or something like that, or armor plating, and made them specific to a faction rather than just this.
Neutral.
This thing is just clearly so good.
It should be. It should be for hero. It should be a blue hero card exclusively. And I think then because I actually don't have a huge problem with Force Illusion. I think it extends the length of what was a really quick game at the time. So that never felt too bad. And you're eating your deck. So if you did take 6 damage, cool. You definitely lost a turn in the whole game.
Sure.
So that was cool. And you don't know what cards you're going to lose. It's only blocking packets of damage. But if it was blue hero, I think it would. I don't think we'd be talking about it. I think because it's neutral.
I would agree.
Yeah.
Right.
I think because it's neutral, that's what it is.
Right. I think that's a great point. The greatest grievances of these cards that we've been talking about lately are that they're neutral, and everyone had them. They were in every deck. They were just an auto include, and so you played a blue anything. Speed and Illusion were in it. There's no doubt about it. You played a melee deck of any kind. FN loved Vibro Knife and like the ambush that it gave, and Ray, like and then but Force Illusion coming in. You're right, Levi. Like there was a cost there that you'd lose those cards, but gosh, man, soaking up 6 or 7 damage with a bunch of modifiers because that's your only choice.
Right.
Wasn't losing those cards wasn't generally what was going to lose you that game. You were playing a melee or an aggro deck. You absorb that much hit points.
I will say it does add. When your opponent does have a Force Illusion out there, it definitely adds a cool little layer to the game of like if you're thinking like, well, how can I sequence my resolves to maximize the damage here? What are they going to choose to Force Illusion or not, so that's kind of a cool little thing. If you had a modifier out there and maybe you had a couple blacks, like what's the best way to go about it? But
if it was
it's just a really good card.
Yeah, if it was Riot Shield, if it was, you could block 3 with it, or if you're an apprentice, you can block 2. If you're a Jedi, you can block 3.
Yeah,
or,
right.
Right. That'd be pretty sweet.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe the Riot Shield is like the modern design of a Force Illusion.
I think so.
I mean, having 7-8 damage potentially with like if you were unlucky and you had one black side and the rest were all blue pluses, that's huge swing of the game. But
suddenly Mill becomes a win condition because you just melted a third of their deck.
Right, but there's like not many cards out there to help you with that. At that point, you're right. I mean, gosh, losing a fourth or a third is a major deal, but generally being able to soak up that damage gave you the time you needed.
I would agree. Yeah, so Force Illusion is my number 1. So why don't we move on to
Levi?
We have Levi and Casey's number 1 here.
home stretch. It's a red hero card, C3PO. He's a support. He's a droid. He costs $1. Which is funny. He's got a 1 focus, a 1 discard, a 1 money, 2 blanks. For an action, remove this die to resolve one of your dice as if it were showing a different symbol. It keeps its original value. He's saying, it is I, C3PO. Yeah, this card's cool. This card's really cool. I don't think it was unfair. I mean, it's a little nuts. You can say, like, I want anything I want when I want it. You know, that, I guess that is, now that I'm saying it out loud, that's pretty dumb. But I don't know. I think good players made this card. Great players made this card busted. Good players made this card seem fair. And it was a skill card. And that's why I like it. I like that it sort of rewarded deck building. It rewarded sequencing. I don't know. It's like a perfect and broken support card. I can't believe it cost $1. That's the funniest part to me. This is a 3-coster all day. It should be $3 because
it's a special generator. It's a special generator, right? If you have to have that focus to get to the thing, but yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
It's whatever I need it to be. Most of the time, that's going to be a special off some other.
Yeah, it's whatever I want it to be. I think it's not the best card in the set, but it's my number one because of just the experiences I had playing it and playing against it. It's cool.
It's very cool.
Yeah, I feel like I remember, in maybe not in just Spirit, but later on in like support decks when, like you were saying, how he would just become a focus machine in those slow support decks to where at the end of if you're playing a 2-wide and you're playing against supports, they're going way slower than you and you're just done. You have nothing else to do. And they just roll all their stuff out there and they remove 1, 2, and they're focusing up 2 of their big supports to their biggest sides or, something like that. So, but yeah, very versatile, obviously, to say the least, but that's what the red arm will get you that.
Ask me about my red arm. Hey, was Vandalize out at this point?
I don't believe so.
So there was no way to get rid of C3PO, right?
Right.
I don't think there was any support.
Yeah.
Vandalize is in Legacy, so that didn't come for a while.
Right.
Yeah. Really? It was a Legacies card?
Vandalize, yeah.
This one helped so many decks, The good thing is it's Hero. At least it's a Hero. Like, Hero needed all the help it could get.
Especially Red Hero. Well, maybe not in those days, because there was so much busted stuff going on, but, later on, after some erratas, they kind of fell off to the wayside a bit.
Right. The game was so hyper. Everything was so hyper that, for Holocron to be not utterly broken says a lot, right?
That's true. Good point.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, good pick.
Yeah, very cool.
One of my favorite cards throughout the. Yeah. So my number one was Force Illusion, which we already touched on. So, Casey, what is your number one here?
My number one was Levi's number 9. I just, this isn't like, I guess, that strong a card. It's they're just the memories of playing this card were so strong for me that it just rose to the top as I was looking at my list. I kept looking and cutting and looking, and this one just kept floating to the top. And I'd reevaluate and look and reevaluate, and it's bait and switch. It's a 0-costed villain card. It's got ambush, and it says turn one of your dice showing a resource to any side. And it took an innocuous roll into what you needed it to be, damage wise, most likely mill wise if you needed it. Most die had a dollar sign on it, and you were able to turn it into whatever you wanted with this. And it was like that sneaky out of hand damage. So ambush, turn, resolve my melee with all these modifiers that were sitting there with no black side. And this did it. Just love that out of hand sneakiness that this one brought to the game. I like I said, it just kept floating to the top.
Levi?
Oh, he said it all. It's just a sweet little sneaky play. I'm glad it's on my number 9. I just couldn't put it at number 1, but I understand your reasoning. It's so funny how much yellow you have in your top 10.
I didn't realize it until today.
Yeah, it's a lot. Newt Gunray's looking great on this. I guess that's him. He's looking great. He's about to get smoked, but he looks great.
Yeah.
Yeah, great card. I have nothing additive.
Yeah, I mean, Levi, I think you've kind of coined this phrase in the past, but I don't have anything clever to say about this either. But we've definitely all been bait and switched before, and it's once we kind of got used to this card as being a staple, so to speak, you always had to consider it in your mind at all times. When your opponent rolled a resource and they're yellow villain, you're thinking, well, what's the situation here if they have it? So that was kind of a cool little wrinkle in the game. If they haven't showed it to you yet, odds are they might have it because there's 2 of them in their deck. So just a cool little sub game within the game to keep in mind as you're kind of sequencing out the round.
Yeah, I feel like. Go ahead, Levi.
Well, I want to walk back everything I said about Aura Singh earlier because bait and switch is really good with her.
Sure.
So your choice is redeemed.
Just because of this card, not because of
Yeah, I can't. I mean, how many games have you won with this card? How many games have you lost with this card? Just because of this sneaky little thing.
It's nuts on Vader. Terror to behold.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, don't even get me started on that. But yeah, once Vader kind of settled in with either Greedo. Mainly Greedo, right? I feel like was the yellow teammate.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because you got the friends in high places, like you talked about, bait and switch. What a strong.
Oh my gosh, the combo from bait and switch to friends in high places was a thing.
Oh right. Yeah. Flip to the 4 and then see what we got on top.
New
so yeah, guys, thanks for.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Love it.
That was our top 10 Spirit of Rebellion. If you guys made it this far, thanks for sticking with us. As you kind of can tell, as we mentioned, as we were making our top 10, Spirit of Rebellion could almost have its own sub top 10s of different categories in itself. There's so many crazy good cards in this set that it kind of blows your mind when you go back and really scan the cards. And when you try to formulate a top 10, it was really difficult. For me, I don't know about you guys, but it was not an easy task to narrow these down.
It's also really easy to crap on the set. It's really easy to be like, what the hell, and it's definitely kind of what the thesis of this episode has been, but at the same time, it's got some really provocative design. It's high impact. It's like a big step. So if this is Destiny's sophomore album, I appreciate it for its confidence. It's easy to take shots at it, but it's got a lot of stuff going for it.
Yeah, that's super fair. I think its biggest sin was that it ramped the game so far. It took it from like a 3 to a 10, right? In terms of its speed. You had half-hour games and 35, 40-minute games in Awakenings, because you would pitch and re-roll and work to get your damage across, and you'd have this long game, and you'd almost lose to attrition more than anything. And then Spirit came out, and it was you have 3 rounds against some decks, or 3 turns or rounds, 3 or 4 rounds, and you're done. And that was, I thought, what ruined it for me, or what made it such a hard set. Ruined it is the wrong word. There was
it poisoned it. It definitely poisoned it.
And also that huge wait, like you mentioned, Levi, almost 6 months between this and Awakenings. Everyone was so tired of playing
between this and Empire War.
Yeah, exactly. I misspoke. Everyone was so tired of playing all this janky ass bullshit.
Yeah, that didn't help. Maybe if the newer stuff had come a little quicker, it wouldn't have left such a sour taste. But just that we were exposed to it for so long.
Right, or if FFG should have stepped up and rotted some shit and really cut
Yeah.
into it and said, "Oh, hey, let's shake up some stuff." And like, yeah, Vibronite's broken, Speed's broken. But they never even touched Speed.
Well, I think every Destiny player can relate to the fact that every Destiny player at some point in their Destiny career has probably thought to themselves or said out loud, FFG should do something.
It's true.
They've probably said that at least once or twice. So, not that's probably something we're going to revisit here as we continue going through our lists. But, if you've been watching, try to trust your feelings and leave us a comment. We'll mention the top comment in our next video, Empire at War.
Tell us how wrong we
which
are.
Is, we like to hear that because we know, I don't know what I'm talking about 90%
We're just
of the
three
time,
guys
so.
on the internet talking.
Yeah.
But yeah, your comments are awesome. We love them. We'd love to have the dialogue. We're thinking about how we're going to do Empire, and let us know what your thoughts are, how you feel, what moments these cards hit you, or your own cards hit you, how you felt playing Spirit of Rebellion.
Hope you had just as much fun as we did. But this has been the Loth-Wolf Pack and the Brothers Dim, Levi, Casey. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, pleasure.
Appreciate
Man.
the time.
Thanks for setting it up, man.
Everybody watching, thanks for sticking with us. We'll see you next time. Empire
Take
War.
care.